I was a total skeptic. When Ted called and talked to me the first time, he said, we want to put up turbo Fladry. And I said, what in the world is that? And he said, well, it's this hot wire with flags on it. And I was like, there's one thing that'll stop a wolf, and that's a bullet. And he said, well, no, this works.
In 2016, people in Carnivores worked with John and Kate Hansen and the local government trapper through Wildlife Services, Ted North, to put up Fladry around their calving pasture on their ranch outside of Marion. We enclosed about a 40-acre pasture in Fladry, and it was a pasture where they had historically had a number of issues with wolf depredations on calves.
We're running about 60 head of cows. We calve right out the window here in the spring, and then they're out on range from June through September. I think our biggest loss was about 7 or 8 calves in a year, which is 10% of our herd, so that hurts. The wolves are here. We've shot at them. We've done everything else trying to keep them out of here, but it's hard to shoot at something if you can't see it.
In 2016, we had Fladry up, and we thought it worked pretty well because we didn't have any losses in a field where the Hansens had historically lost calves to wolves. But the issue was we couldn't be sure because we never knew whether we had been successful because there weren't any wolves around or because the Fladry was working. So in 2017, we returned and we put up the Fladry in exactly the same place, but we added trail cameras around the Fladry. And what we found was that wolves were actually visiting that pasture almost weekly.
It was a real eye-opener to see that much activity on the outside of that fence. They're smart. They're not scared of us. They know when we sleep. I think the biggest mistake that anybody makes is underestimating the intelligence of these things. If you leave a spot or an opening, they're going to use it. We had them all the way around this perimeter. It wasn't just in one spot. We'd get them all the way around it.
During that time, we never documented a single wolf inside the pasture, and we never lost any calves. So to me, that's a pretty profound argument that this tool works well in this particular situation.
Our cows are so much nicer to work. We can bring our cow-calf pairs in and my wife and I can sort them off in 20 minutes. Whereas 5 years ago, they were on the fight and they'd see a dog, they were ready to eat it. It was a whole different mindset on the animals that we have. It's helped us in more than just dead calves. It's helped us in the way the whole herd behaves.
Fladry, the tool that people in Carnivores used out at the Hansen Ranch, is a pretty simple thing. It's something that's been used in parts of Europe for a very long time. It's a string with red plastic flags hanging from it. One of the improvements that's been made on Fladry recently is that the line that the flags hang from has been electrified. And that's a huge thing because historically, wolves would look at it. It was a very strange thing with all these red flags flapping in the breeze, and they wouldn't know what to make of it, didn't like to go around it. But they would eventually test it. And when they tested it, there was no negative effect. So what we did by adding electrical current to the line, that novel visual thing is actually backed up by a pretty hefty electric shock. It's a non-injurious shock, so it does no lasting harm, but it is very painful. I mean, I can speak from personal experience. It's a powerful incentive to get away from the fence as quick as you can. It makes a big difference when a landowner goes from suspecting that something might be helping to knowing that it is helping. And that's a huge change, and it really helps people get behind tools like this that do take diligence and work on the part of a landowner.
Looking for a solution that works for everyone. That's huge, instead of just trying to stay with the old tried and true methods that, sometimes work and sometimes aren't the greatest idea.
We want to be in that role of being able to help people become more empowered on their own land, to go from being in a situation where they're essentially waiting to be victimized by a wolf depredation to a situation where they're empowered and can actually do something proactive. They can put up a barrier around their pasture, and though no tool is going to be 100% effective, this one works very well, and particularly when it's used in situations like the one on the Hansen place.
The wolves are here, and there's no denying it. There's no use in sitting crying and whining about it. They're here, let's deal with it. This, so far, has been the easiest way to do that for us. And as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty foolproof. It's a real positive thing, and I don't want to be without it now. That's for sure.
For more information, please visit peopleincarnivores.org.